Over the last 30 years, round became square, small became big, and small and big, and smaller and bigger. From a classic fairy tale, we flew into an exciting reality, discovering a world of possibilities. We've learned and we've loved. We still learn and we still love. Together, we have shaped the culture of today, and we keep on building, creating, and growing. Through the tough, the rough, and the many challenges, always supporting, encouraging, enriching each other, so that square can become any shape, and small can become so much smaller when we realize how big it really is. 30 years of support, and we keep going, because you are building the culture of tomorrow. Your stories are meant to be shared.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the European Film Forum 2021 here at the Berlin International Film Festival Weeks for all film industry professionals. I'm AC Coppens, the founder of the Catalyst Agency, and I have the honor and the pleasure to be your host today and guide you through the perspectives of the future of the audiovisual industry. I'd say actually we are in a film, a genre film with an interactive scenario, multiple choice questions, shot, distributed and streamed in real time, in real reality, a film called Pandemia. You wake up in the morning and you think you are in a bad film? No, it is life. And this has created huge disruptions within the wider audiovisual industry, our industry. A year has passed. Berlinale 2020 was the last great physical event in the audiovisual industry in Europe. And today, it is the first big event again of the year. So now we want and we need to be hopeful. We are imaginative, we are storytellers, we are filmmakers, we are innovators, we are creative technologists. We are all still making the audiovisual industry live further through all the pitfalls and all the challenges set by the pandemics. And there is a new Creative Europe Media program that will be available and support the sector from 21 to 27. And we will also inquire into this in a moment. Berlinale, therefore, provides us with the best space to kickstart the discussion on Creative Europe Media, but also to gain an understanding on what the future of the audiovisual industry, how does that look like? So after the introduction and a couple of presentations to get us started, we will have the common basis of key facts for a more in-depth discussion with our guests, the very experts justifying our title of today, giving their perspectives with an S for the future of our industry. Maybe a couple of housekeeping notes for everyone. We want to be interactive. Well, first we need to speak a little bit, but we will use Slido during and after the panel. So I encourage you to note your questions right away on Slido so that they can reach us here in Berlin. And you have two options to use Slido. You can see a slide screened here with a QR code. Can I see this? Can I see the slide with a QR code? Okay, wonderful. And by scanning it with your phone camera or a scan app, you will be directed to the Slido website and directly be able to ask your questions. So super easy. Or there is a streaming page here where you are looking at. It also contains a Slido toolbox next to the video stream window, which I do not see, but I think it should be, yes, there. This is the code you need to have, right? So you can also use this. And yes, so then you can interact with us all here. So you may, participate and be with us. So let us first invite and hear a European institution working on this issue first and building also the future of the industry. I would like to welcome first a member of the European Parliament since 2009, and it is Sabine Verheyen, the chair of Committee on Culture and Education in the European Parliament, the CULT committee, that is working for securing adequate budgets for culture and education, also part of the EU Recovery Fund. And Sabine, please, let's kick that off.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, Exactly 1 year ago, I attended the Berlinale and was able to meet many of you personally. Who could have foreseen the year that was ahead of us? I remember that we were already worried about the impact, the length and gravity of COVID-19. Though most of us could not even imagine that our lives, social, personal and familiar, the professional too, would change so drastically in just 1 year. Turns out that our biggest concerns about the pandemic were true. It has been a long and difficult year, and we are dealing with consequences that we cannot fully grasp yet. Words we did not know before are now used daily: lockdown, social distance, curfew, quarantine, and disruption. But these words are also accompanied by the use of terms such as resilience, solidarity, cooperation, innovation, mutual solutions, and sense of community. These terms mirror the principles and values which pave our way out of the pandemic as a society. Based on these principles, we need the commitment of European institutions, member states, ministers and regions towards the audiovisual and cultural sectors. Last year, I listened to your expectations towards the new Creative Europe program, which was still under negotiations at that time. At the end of 2019, the cultural and creative economy was a European heavyweight. During the pandemic in 2020, the cultural and creative economy lost approximately 31% of its revenues. Losses of 10 billion performers and artists working as postmen or drivers or in other professions. This is the 2020 reality for the media and audiovisual sector hit by the COVID-19 economic crisis. It has been the sector that, together with tourism, has been hit the most by the crisis. Structures and working practices that presented a pre-existing fragility have paid the highest price in the pandemic. The vulnerability of non-standard workers, freelance authors, performers, crews, and workers has grown. Cultural and creative European structures, which are often small-sized or even micro-sized enterprises with less than 10 persons employed, have been more exposed when the whole cinema landscape and value chain have shifted abruptly. Many European co-productions were stopped and festivals had to be cancelled or turned into an online format. The majority of cinemas across Europe had to close. They tried to find a way to stay connected to their audience. They developed digital cinema rooms or brought the good old drive-in cinema back, but distributors had to innovate their way of promoting films for a home-based audience while competing with streaming services. Authors, storytellers, directors and creators are far from getting a fair and proportionate remuneration system from their artistic and cultural creation and for the use of their works. The pandemic will probably have an impact on the sector for the next 2 or 3 years, and innovation will be key to bring the sector to its old strength. As bad as this pandemic was, it has boosted creativity at the same time, and we have seen so many good ideas. During the crisis, many organizations have shown their innovative power by experimenting with possible alternatives. Many, from festivals to cinemas, just to quote some, promptly adapted to new digital distribution formats, and there has been an increased sectoral unity through numerous joint actions and movements. I'm happy that with the new Creative Europe program, we are responding to the situation of the sector. This program is an important supporter of the European cultural and creative sector. The Creative Europe Media Program is turning 30 this year. I can say for sure that without the media program, today's Europe would look differently. It has been one of the greatest examples of building collaborations, exchanging visions, empowering freedom of creativity and expression. Furthermore, the program helped developing a European audience while supporting and contributing to the growth of the European film and audiovisual sector. As you all know, the funding for the new Creative Europe program and its media strand has been increased. More than ever, the program will be key for the sector and its sustainability. It will be necessary for relaunching the value chain growth and for contributing to European and national economies, employment, diversity, and cultural identity. Additionally, it is vital for the well-being of our societies, as the pandemic has shown. Going forward, Creative Europe will play an even more important role for the audiovisual creations across Europe. It gives us the chance to promote diversity and inclusion in the film industry. We will be able to protect and promote creative freedom, diversity in storytelling, and new narratives to describe our vision, our values. Creative Europe remains also very important in providing support for parts of the value chain that cannot benefit of sufficient support in most member states, like independent distributors and cinema exhibitors. They play an essential role in the ecosystem in creating audiences for European non-national content across Europe. The same goes for festivals, which need to be supported for the fundamental role they play in showing films that might not get attention otherwise. Festivals are also an important platform for professional meetings and in building a trustful and lasting relation to the audience. The digital revolution has reshaped the audiovisual sector. Therefore, new issues such as the protection of intellectual property, securing access to finance in a rapidly changing sector, and ensuring the proper distribution of works have arisen as key challenges. The objective for the new Creative Europe program is to focus on initiatives that can have a real impact on the sector across Europe, either by supporting individual works, initiatives that promote new skills in the sector, or initiatives in favor of international cooperation in the sector. The Creative Europe program will be voted on in March in the plenary session of the European Parliament. I'm aware how urgent it is for the entire sector to have it operational as soon as possible. Same goes for the new Media and Audiovisual Action Plan by the European Commission. The plan, containing 10 measures to support the sector, comes at the right time. The plan focuses on the digital and ecological transition as well as on equity investment, data spaces, and virtual reality. It is important to take into account the unique market realities of the media and audiovisual sector and to protect our cultural diversity in Europe when implementing the plan. This means promoting media diversity and journalistic freedom in Europe, and the European media industry also needs better access to financing schemes. Our common goal is to translate the plans of the EU Commission into concrete actions. The European Parliament, and in particular the Committee on Culture, Youth, Education and the Media and Sport, will work closely with the players in the sectors, the Commission and the Council, to implement these actions. We must do everything we can to ensure that the sector recovers from the crisis and becomes globally competitive again. This is why the Recovery Fund with 700 billion euros has to reach to the cultural and creative sectors as well. The member states will be responsible to draft the national implementation plans, and they have to include culture in their national strategies. Spending money on culture and cultural education is an investment in the future of the continent, and we must use the crisis as an opportunity to redefine our priorities, because art and creativity are what defines us as people, shape us as a society, hold up a mirror. It is systematically relevant for our society, especially in crisis. Without culture, there can be no real recovery of Europe from the pandemic. And now I wish you a successful event, a successful Berlinale. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabine. This is wonderful to have these encouraging words and this support. And now to work on further action, innovation, I welcome on stage for a fireside chat two further industry experts. First of all, Denis Roux, Director of the European Film Market. He's an experienced programmer, festival curator, and director. He worked in marketing and distribution before switching to German films to be in charge of international festival relations and the point of contact for producers developing distribution strategies. So the perfect background. And I have also the pleasure to welcome Lucia Recalde, Head of the Unit Audiovisual Industry and Media Support Programs, European Commission. Prior to that, she was part of the management of the Directorate General for Education and Culture and head of the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. So also we have here two great experts. Please, Denis and Lucia.
Lucia, great to see you here at the virtual European film market. It's great that we can host the European Film Forum as well as the European film market. Great to see you.
Well, Denis, thanks. I'm really delighted to be here with you virtually. It's a pity we cannot be in Berlin. Actually, the last European Film Forum event we organized took place in Berlin almost now a year ago. And since then, many things have happened. So you were appointed just a couple of months ago, and you have the huge challenge of organizing the first fully digital edition of the European film market. So what are the main challenges you are facing?
Yeah, of course, there are some challenges, and I would lie when saying that the start was trouble-free. But this was not what I expected. When I applied for the job as EFM director, the pandemic was already there. And even if the second wave was not foreseen already, and also Venice gave a lot of hope for the industry, and it seemed that hybrid markets were feasible and possible in 2021 or at the beginning of 2021. But what was particularly challenging last autumn was more the uncertainty and not being able to project what the situation would be in February. So you have to set up a market with 100% commitment, and whilst knowing that maybe things will be different and have to be reorganized. So we already set up different plans to be prepared for different scenarios. And sure, this costs a lot of time, and the work you do is partly redundant as well. But I think that is something what most of us challenged during the last year. The EFM in March, in its digital edition, shall give a platform for the international sales business, which the industry needs. And this has become clear in all my conversations I had with sales agents and industry delegates who work in acquisition. And that the film program is presented as a market gives also access to many new films. That is a good sign, I think. And this year's concept is also about let films travel after the market, and we want to help the films, their visibility and distribution with this event. So we play our small part in the success story of films, and at the same time, the support of the Creative Europe Media Program is of huge importance for the European film industry, and in terms of development, distribution, and promotion in general, and particularly in those challenging times. So it was really encouraging to hear that the program was renewed. Lucia, we would be very much interested in some insights about the current changes of the program.
Well, let me start with the good news. The good news is the budget, the significant budget increase of the Creative Europe program at large. If we calculate the previous budget in 2014, 2020, with the budget allocated between 2021 and 2027, for the EU 27 countries, the budget increase amounts to almost 80%. So it's a phenomenal increase that is very much needed to address the very, very significant impact of the pandemic for the audiovisual industry. So what is new in the program? There will be an increased emphasis on sustainability. And I think we all need to contribute to really address the green transformation of the audiovisual industry. There will be also an increased emphasis on promoting inclusiveness and diversity through the program. That's a mandate that was given by the co-legislators. So these will be sort of cross-cutting priorities of the program. When it comes to the concrete actions, of course, we will build a lot on the actions that have been developed over the last years that have proved to be very successful. So again, I want to be clear, there will be no revolution in the actions, but there will certainly be an evolution to make the program actually fit to the challenges brought about by the pandemic. So in this context, collaboration, promoting European added value through collaboration and through the transnational nature of the action will be more important than it was in the past. Again, this is a mandate that we were given by the co-legislators to really foster the European dimension of this program. So, for example, in order to implement it, we will be focusing on co-development. So really, we would like to take the collaboration to the next level and support co-development, co-production, co-distribution, and collaboration all across the value chain. Because again, the pandemic has shown that there is no single player, audiovisual player today in Europe that can face the challenges of the pandemic and the digital shift on its own. So this is very much in the European DNA to collaborate and really join up forces. There is also a very important element that I would like to highlight is that the program also needs to take into account the differences in terms of capacity of the different European countries. So we will really make an effort to be sure that we can broaden the participation to the EU 27 countries, that no single country is left out of Creative Europe, and at the same time that talent, wherever talent is located, has a chance to participate in the program on an equal footing. So I would say by way of introduction, this is perhaps the novelties of the program. It is not what we are going to do, because as I said, this will remain, will build on the assets of the program, but it's on how we are going to do it where we'll see more differences. And through this increased collaborative effort. So, Dennis, we see that changes, this industry is changing at a speed light. So looking forward, how do you see the evolution of the European film market in the next years?
That's a big question. So my focus right now is, first of all, to complete this digital edition of the European film market, and also to welcome again filmmakers in Berlin in summer. I'm very optimistic that we will overcome also this pandemic, and that festivals will be again possible. Also possible to host festivals in person. At the same time, I see that changes has been accelerated, and my vision is also to unite the best of both worlds, especially for the European film market, the best of the physical and the virtual world, and to make an offer to the industry, not only at the beginning of the year, but I think it's also important to give an offer during the year. And we just started to launch one initiative, which is our EFM podcast, Industry Insights, to give more knowledge about film industry, also for a wider group of people. One learning was also from the last month and also the pandemic time with a lot of virtual events, that it's very difficult for people just entering the industry to start, to network, to get in touch with people. And I think this is important also to not to give newcomers a chance also to enter the market. And for the EFM 2022, we will work to find the right formula, of course, to strengthen the role as the focal point of the film industry at the beginning of the year, and as a compass for innovation and also for the recovering industry. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that cinema will remain and will be still be an important part of film distribution. At the same time, of course, streamers play a big role. But anyway, let's continue with the European Film Forum today. Lucia, could you tell us about this edition's topics and the first ever action plan on the media and audiovisual sector?
Yes, thanks for asking this question. Today's event will focus on the Future Creative Europe program that has to be framed in this broader context. We are very much aware, acutely aware in the European Commission that we really need to have to do our very best to contribute to recover the audiovisual industry after the very severe crisis originated by the pandemic. And we have a wonderful financial tool, which is the Creative Europe Media Program. But we also have an action plan for the first time that is really looking forward and identifying the most important challenges for the audiovisual industry in order not only to recover, but to transform itself, but also to empower the actors of the ecosystems. So we presented, the college adopted in December this media and audiovisual action plan that includes 10 actions. And we think that it has a very strong transformative component. The actions will go from injecting liquidity in the system in the first place through a new equity instrument, an investment platform targeting independent production and distribution companies so that they are in a better position to grow, to scale up, to collaborate, to produce wonderful co-productions, but also, and very importantly, to keep the rights of these co-productions, because we know that ownership of the rights and management of the rights these days is key. And what we would like to avoid is some companies feel obliged to sell rights too quickly in order to be able to finalize the production of the companies, of the content, sorry. So this is an action we are particularly attached because we think that in Europe, it will be very difficult to preserve our creativity, our creative autonomy if we don't have companies equipped actually with financial means to really take their productions forward. But this is by no means the only action foreseen. We also envisage some actions in terms of the sustainability of the industry, because we all have to be greener in the future. And we intend to set up a dialogue here with the professionals actually to learn from each other, because a lot is going on already in Europe. But I think that knowledge is not shared. And I think we have the collective duty to gather that knowledge, give it visibility, and learn from each other in order to make this, the European audiovisual industry, a model, a benchmark in terms of green production all over the world. We also foresee actions in terms of virtual reality. We would like to set up a virtual reality, augmented reality coalition that will have to prepare a plan between now and the end of this year and come with ideas to really foster that new component, that immersive component of the audiovisual industry. And this is important for the audiovisual industry as such, but also for other industries, for other creative industries, from fashion or to education or tourism. We really, through this cross-sectorial work within that, there will be new opportunities of content creation and new actually market opportunities for the audiovisual industry. I would also like to mention another initiative that we think is very important for structuring the audiovisual industry is what we call a media data space. So we would like to support the creation of an infrastructure, data infrastructure that could pull efforts from different audiovisual and news media players so that they can actually improve the knowledge of data, improve their business model, and improve their knowledge of audience through these enhanced data efforts and data sharing. Last but not least, because this is the first action that we will be implemented and possibly the most important one for the people that are listening to us today, we know that there will be a lot of new opportunities for the audiovisual industry, but it's difficult to find them. So we plan to launch already this spring an interactive tool that will guide the companies to really try to optimize support from the different European programs and really know what is available, when the calls are going to be launched, so that actually we are sure that the industry at large can benefit from this wider array of financial opportunities. So a lot of work to be done, and a lot of work to be done in close consultation with the industry. We did it during the crisis, and this is something we intend to do throughout the implementation of this media action plan. It's a plan prepared by the Commission, but for the industry, and we would like to implement it hand in hand with the industry to make the most of it.
So we look very much forward to dive into details later today at the European Film Forum, and of course to welcome you back in Berlin very soon.
I'm very much looking forward to it. Hope I will be able to join you not only virtually, but physically very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Dennis and Lucia. And actually, Lucia will be with us later on for the Q&A after the panel. So this is good. She will be with us. At any case, we want to move on because we heard quite a few things in these introductions: innovation, collaboration, sustainability, accessibility. Creative Europe Media is there, but beyond that, the action plan to recover and beyond, to transform, to empower. We're gonna now elaborate on these different points, of course, perspectives on the future for the European audiovisual industry, with a great selection of 5 professionals representing these different perspectives. And I have with me today, very good to introduce, Karine Hanel, Head of Commercial Business and International Affairs of Whiteside. Karine's focus is on international co-productions and financing on both drama series and feature films, including supervision of international sales and managing international public funding. So quite a broad view. Wonderful. Thanks to be here, Karine. I have also with me Rike Ennis, the CEO of Reinvent Studios, functioning as executive and creative producers, developing, financing through a palette of financial products, as well as co-producing international and local TV series, feature films, and web series. So the Reinvent International Sales are also sales agent for own and other projects from Scandinavia. So also here, a broad experience, but these 2 experts are obviously very much in production, financing, with also a good know-how in sales. Wonderful to have you with us. I also welcome Daniel Giroux from Atlas V, not 5, like virtual, since last year, head of distribution and publishing for immersive narrative XR content. She has worked on several award-winning projects and collaborates with leading partners like Oculus, Google, or Arte. The X, by the way, in XR is extended reality. It also refers to all real and virtual environments generated by computer graphics and wearables like AR, augmented reality, MR, mixed reality, and VR, virtual reality. So it should be actually Atlas X, right, Daniel? But okay, we can discuss about this later on. Also with me, Christophe Papoussek, CFO of Constantin Film and Cineplex Group of companies, the group's international cinema operation that you co-founded, Christophe, an important partner of shopping mall operators, by the way. You are also carrying out a range of functions in the Austrian Chamber of Commerce to represent the film and cinema industry, as well as in the European Cinema Association, UNIC, and the Global Cinema Federation. Welcome, also a broad range of expertise here with us. I go on further to Spain now. Jaume Ripoll, co-founder and head of content at Filmin, the reference website for independent cinema in Spain. Jaume, you are also Atlantida Film Fest director, the first film festival offering its entire program online, and whose 10th edition, I think last year, exceeded 500,000 viewers online. We need to ask you your secrets. And yes, I think that's it. And that's me, but I already presented myself. So let's go straight into the first round. I would like to have first of a context and ask each of you first, what was the biggest change for you from your very own perspective into the industry over the past 1 year. And I would like to tell me, was it mainly due to the pandemics, or was it actually just the market drive? And I will start with Karin. Karin, can we hear you?
Wait, I disappeared.
You disappeared, okay.
Yeah, I had some problems with the video before, but now I'm here again.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here. Last Berlinale, we were most of us present physically, and I think that was the last time we actually had a physical festival meeting. I work for Wildside in Italy, who is a company that produces both cinema and drama scripted series. Well, last year, I think it was all about the coronavirus, wasn't it? It's a little bit hard to talk about trends, but everything was so focused around the coronavirus and how we should protect ourselves, how we should move forward, how we should resolve new situations that was arising due to this virus. From our point of view, we are producers. So we office people, we have adapted new ways of working as everyone else, remote working from home with kids, family around us. And one of the nice things about it was that we were all in the same boat in the whole world, talking to people in Los Angeles, in Israel, in wherever. We were all sitting there with kids running around or interruptions from the doorbell ringing. But from the production side, we had to interrupt. I think we were shooting 3 or 4 productions when the lockdown kicked in. And actually, I see, as you mentioned in the intro, we were shooting a series. One of the series we were shooting was an apocalyptic drama series about an epidemic that spreads around the world.
So I made the right intro, actually,
yeah.
Right, Karin? Listen, I want to dig into the problems of the production in a second. I just want to give the chance to everyone to give a first impression on the change. I think you were very clear, absolutely. Thank you. I will go back to you in a second, but now I want to ask Rike, what was your big change in the last year? And was it the pandemics, as actually Karin was saying a second ago, or was it also something coming just from the market transformation drive?
Well, that's a very good question. Actually, we had just arrived as a rather new company in Berlinale. We just struck a deal with SF Studios representing all their feature films in the Nordics. And from one day to the other, it's just a shockwave. First of all, we had a co-production that stopped from Corona, actually the first Norwegian film that had Corona on its team. And the other 2 big Nordic films that we were supposed to distribute internationally, they just stopped the production because they were shot in Czech and another country. So everything was delayed. And I had to say that first meeting we had internally was like, what are we going to do? What's happening here? What's going on with the world? I think as we just, got a grip of the situation and luckily, finding out that catalog value was actually expanding, we were quite optimistic also on the TV series side. And what we were soon to see is that the streaming platforms were just craving content because the production were delayed. So we had an opportunity to actually sell completed TV series and catalogs.
Wonderful.
So you could say the lockdown of theaters made us look more into catalog and TV series for a while. But
Great.
now it's opening up again due to optimism. So that's good.
Yes, absolutely. So there is hope, as I was saying also in the intro, right? How does it look like in the VR industry, XR industry, Danielle?
Yeah, so for us, on the surface, we were fairly adapted to working digitally before the pandemic hit. So we really were able to turn to those digital tools and that pipeline. So on the surface, it seemed we weren't impacted as much as other other production, because we're an immersive group. So for us, we have the production side of things, the creative side. We have the co-production, and then with Antoine Carroll, this year in 2020, he really launched the distribution side of Atlas. And so that's where I was brought on. And I was actually, I joined Atlas about a week before France went into their confinement. And so my role originally was to go to festivals, to go to cultural institutions for location-based entertainment. So on a personal side and distribution side, it completely shifted, where we had to be very creative in finding ways to shift to the digital and how to reach people who we weren't reaching before. And so yeah, we found a lot of changes, and I think we can dive into what on at least the VR side, how things will evolve and what will stick, but for us, we've been able to adapt with a lot of creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think a lot of us had to adapt anyway. There was no much choice, but of course in your sector it was really particularly interesting and an opportunity for the distribution to reach new audiences. Now I turn to Christophe. Christophe, how was it for you? What was the main change, and was it pandemia or was it the market?
First of all, also hello to everyone and thank you for joining. Also thanks to all the organizers. It's so important to have events like this, which show a clear sign of our industry, of the audiovisual industry. For me personally, I represent not only theaters, I also represent distribution. Constantin Film, based in Vienna. It's only the same name as the German-based Constantin Film. We have been together in a group of companies in the past, but since 2002, we are completely independent. We are an Austrian entrepreneurial-owned business, and we do distribution and we do exhibition. We run more than 60 theaters in 12 countries in Europe. Our home base is in Austria. And on the 16th of March, the lockdown came. There were certainly signs a couple of days earlier. And the week onward was like in a horror movie. Every day, another message. Every day, another country to close the theaters, starting with some strange measures politicians introduced without any knowledge of the pandemic, of the severe situation which might be ahead of us. And so, first of all, in some countries, we tried to keep the theaters open, to show movies only for a limited number of people in a hall, like 50, going down to 20. Then you had to decide when to close the theaters down. At the end, a couple of days later, we were all in the lockdown. And all of a sudden, no business in theaters, no business in distribution, no idea how long it might take, no state aid programs in place. This was all too far and too far away and too fast coming, and thousands of employees without any perspective. So this was a severe nightmare. Now, a year later, we will talk about that. We have a positive outlook, but yes, a clear development out of the pandemic and not of anything else.
Absolutely. A horror film, we can understand. We are with you, we feel with you. We were in the same film, by the way, we still are in this film, actually. So let us move to Jaume and get his perspective. Jaume, are you with me? And can you tell me more about your big change also for the last year? Was it good for you? How was it?
It was good for the VOD platforms, yes. Indeed. Filming is not only in Spain, but also in Portugal. In our case, we almost doubled the number of subscribers. So it's like double the incomes, double the number of subscribers. But not only filming, the rest of the platforms, of the VOD platforms. No, it's to be honest, we have reached a new audience thanks to the situation of the lockdown situation for the society in Spain and Portugal. And this, on the positive side, I think during the first quarter of the pandemic, let's say March till May, more or less March, April, May, during the worst moments of the pandemic, the VOD platform experienced like a huge increase of subscribers. But after that, the churn rate, so the number of subscribers that has left the platforms, is not quite high. So it's on the 5-7% rate, which is quite good for the VOD platforms. Meaning that the subscribers remains still out. They are still paying for the
Right.
subscriptions that probably they found out during those worst days.
Yes. So basically, we can say this was accelerating some trends which were existing, but the pandemic as such hit hard. And I would like to dig a little bit what I was announcing before. As Karin was speaking, I would like to go back to you, Karin, but also include Rike. I would like to know a little bit more and a bit more precise what impacted the production most. I mean, you talked a little bit that, of course, the delays were there suddenly, but tell me a little bit more. What was that was really impacting the production pipelines more? Talk about protocol procedures, like what was the cost issues? Tell me more, please. You had started already, Karin.
Yes. Of course, the impact was very dramatic in the beginning because from one day to another, we had to close down all our sets. And we all know how much it costs to be on set. And we went into lockdown for almost 3 months. And even when they started to loose up the restrictions somewhere in beginning mid-June, there was still a lot of discussions going on all this time to find protocols and regulations between the unions, the organizations, and the government to be able to get back, to find enough safety and rules for how to shoot, because you can't put masks on people on set. You can't tell them to stay 2 meters one from another. There are many things that are difficult. But, and this, of course, it became also a financial question because it was to suspend a shooting is very expensive. And then you have to retake, and we had to reconsider locations. We had to reconsider, even for the creative side, we had to redo some of the productions we had to bring home somehow. We went back also in a creative phase to rewrite some scenes to make it less crowd scenes. And one production we shortened the duration as well. Everything to be able to bring it home.
Yes, I understand. And Rike, how was it for you on the production side also? What do you think is the most important thing also for independent producing companies? And do you think these changes are going to stay in the future? How do you see this, Rike?
Well, I mean, learning from experience now, of course, we have seen that the more local you can produce, the easier it is to adapt to the situation, because obviously we've seen that closing down borders has made it extremely difficult to, for crew and cast and everyone involved in the filming to actually go to the set. So local financing, of course, in terms of tax rebates and just, being as swift and agile as possible. And the smaller the production, the easier it is also to change plans. So that's what we've seen. And of course, that's not so good for the European traveling. So everything we can do to support film crews to have more freedom to actually cross borders, even in a pandemic situation, is of course much appreciated. Mm-hmm. And at the same situation with the union, I mean, how do you actually negotiate with the union, that you can say stop to the crew and then, rehire them 2 weeks later in case it's possible. But this crew had already been, booked for other productions. So we've seen a huge lack of film crews in the Nordics as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, yes, we will see this. And going to Danielle, how was it in the immersive sphere in terms of production costs, delays, procedures, resistance, funding problems? How was it there in that field?
So for us, well, we're a rather small studio, and so we have a very indie mindset, which you know, we've had to imagine new ways of producing, which sometimes has produced different opportunities for our artistic mediums and exploring that. So really, we've had to focus these economical constraints into creative opportunities. And so this is in addition to the help that we can receive from Media Europe, and in France we also have the CNC. What we've turned to is a lot of co-productions. So instead of the studio model, what we do is we have international co-productions, and because we were already used to this communicating digitally and virtually, we've just really had to rely on those technologies. Sharing equities on the film and pitching projects in different countries, that has been really challenging. And that's the aspect of the world that's really, at least for distribution side of things, been really impacted. And so, yeah, no, there are virtual markets that have been interesting, that we've been able to participate in, but it really does change things not seeing people in person. But for us, in terms of production, we've adopted another party, a subsidiary for Atlas called Albion. And so that they're doing 3D modeling and virtual animation. And so it really makes things possible because we can do voiceover recordings and
Yes.
we do all the elements of production in a way that's safe. Yeah.
So innovation, new fields of productions to also adapt after all these constraints coming up. You were all saying like producing locally is really nice, and co-production is also very nice. It's good that we have the south, we have the north here of Europe. This is great that we can see that it happens everywhere. Do you think this will actually help us, Karine, Rike, Danielle, first of all, for this co-production thing? Do you think it will help us to make to have a good way to compete against Hollywood because there is more flexibility, small, local, beautiful? Who wants to take that one on? Rike, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, I think what is interesting here is that we're finding out that actually working remote is possible. I mean, even, you know, in the post-production process with the director, that you have these digital systems where you can actually edit and follow the content very closely. You don't have to be in a physical editing suite with the editor. And that's super interesting, of course, in terms of co-production. So I think we are learning to find ways that will eventually make us in Europe much more compatible and not see, you could say, the challenges of co-production, but the opportunities instead.
Great. So we have we are good with this. And Karine, did you want to add something on that? You're muted.
No, this argument, this discussion about how we should stand up against the big American players, it's not really a new question. We have been discussing this for quite a while, together also with the Creative Europe, how we can become stronger and what are the best ways to remain independent producers, to retain our IP, to negotiate with those players, not to keep them out, but what's the best way to meet them.
Absolutely. And not only about the production processes and etc. Let's talk a little bit about the content itself. What do you think, and this is a question for anyone who wants to answer this, what do you think makes content today really compelling for audiences? What are specific relevant stories for audiences around Europe and maybe also globally? Do we want to embrace different local styles of storytelling? Can you tell me more about these content trends? Who would like to take that question on? Jome, yeah, please. Go on.
So first of all, let me share with you a good news, because we will begin the production of our first series. So the first film in original will be shooted in 8 days. So it's a good thing that a VOD platform, a local VOD platform, will begin on producing its own.
Congratulations!
Its own content. So regarding basically consumers have consumed a lot of movies and series during the last year. No? In our case, they doubled the number of films and series that they watch per month. So instead of 12 titles, 24. Instead of 15, 30. It's crazy. So they will need a lot of new content, fresh content. And by fresh, I'm not saying that, okay, new super releases from 2021. But new could be like a 30 years old film by David Cronenberg, Crash, a 20 years old film by Wong Kar-wai, Happy Together, Under the Skin, which was a film that had never been released in Spain until last year. So let's change what a new release means today. So this is an important thing to address. Basically, I think somehow, in our case, our audience is tired of watching the same kind of things, the same 3-act stories that look basically all the similar. No, we are not Netflix, we are not Amazon, we are not Disney. So let's program addressing our personality, no? So our uniqueness.
Yes, completely. So you are actually answering the question I wanted to ask after that are we going to be drowned in content? I mean, when you think of of course, there is cinema, there is what we see in different SVOD services, but there are also, YouTube, there are also niche, not only the big ones, not only the Apple and Netflix and Amazon, we have also the Rewrite and Film Dues, we have also Instagram, we have TikTok. I mean, we are over the edge of screen time, and you're telling me, well, people want to consume double more. So there is not more content than we can see. Do you all agree on this? Or do we need more quality in the content to come up? Who would like to take that one?
Quality. We need more quality, basically. But come on, we need to learn how to address the abundance of content. No? So this is a problem, but a problem of the society, not only for the cinema, but for all the arts and the culture. So we haven't learned yet how to do it and how to address this huge variety of content. But let's not focus that now in 2021.
No, we will go back to it later.
Yeah, but people are still reading Thomas Mann, are still reading Proust, are still watching Bergman series. So it's not all about the algorithm. It's not all about the plot, but also the characters.
Yes, I saw also that Christoph wanted to say something about this.
Yes, currently I am forced to stay at home. Maybe I am allowed to leave home to go to work. There's a lot to do and not a lot to do at work. So sometimes I leave, I do a lot in my home office. But I'm not allowed to go out to a theater and watch a movie there. I'm not allowed to go out and eat in a restaurant. I'm not allowed to go out and play tennis in a tennis hall. I'm not allowed to play soccer because it's a contact sport in group. It's forbidden. And I'm not allowed to so many other things. And this is why I'm forced to do things at home. I'm not bored, don't worry. And I'm happy to watch a lot of content. But I see something coming, and I hope it will come. When the weather is getting better, when outdoor activities will be more intense than they can be now in wintertime, people will change their behavior. And there is a big backlog, not only in movies, there's a backlog in spare time activities, in social activities. So what will people do? They will leave their homes. And the situation and the competition will be dramatically different. So now many new platforms are in place, many new subscriptions are entered in, not only film content, audiovisual content, it's also sports and all the things you mentioned before, social media platforms. You test many, many things. All of the end, when you calculate your monthly budget for subscriptions or also for pay-per-view activities, that's a lot. And why can you afford it currently? Because you avoid other spendings. You cannot fly to another city to enjoy the Mediterranean Sea or the Nordic mountains, whatever. It's not possible. And,
yes, absolutely.
It will change. We all hope it will change. And then we will stay. What will remain? I think we will come later to the future and perspective of theaters and all the other things. But bear in mind, we don't have real competition now. At the moment, the situation is really different. And this has to be taken into consideration.
Yes, you are absolutely right, Christoph. And I think before we go really like to exactly what you're saying, like theaters and how viewership has changed, I would like to make a focus on this a little bit later on. I would stick a little bit about this content and production and go slowly also to the financing aspects. Because, okay, consumers have consumed film, want fresh content, more audiovisual content, but also games, immersive content, TV in different ways. So actually great for production, right? And I would like to know maybe, you know, talking about Christoph, of course, I want to hear from you also, Danielle, Karin, and Rike also about the financing part, but also Jaume, you can say now that you do your original series in 8 days, you know about financing too. So for those who are not making something for a very large studio or SVOD, are you finding that the financiers that you normally speak to, the investors, are more reluctant to engage, or they're like, oh yeah, let's go on? Is there a big drive for production and a good opportunity to get money for this now that everybody wants more content? How is this with financing? Who would like to answer first?
Well,
Rike, go on.
I can say a few words on that. I think there is a tremendous hunger for content and producing content now, which is not global, but where, you know, it's a broadcaster or a local streaming platform taking local rights, and then you have an opportunity to finance from international. What we see here in the Nordics is that the number of episodes goes down to typically 6, which is great for international distribution. So it's more production, but the formats are changing. And of course, the models of the financing is changing as well. I mean, depending on what kind of territories you actually take. From some of the streaming platforms, you see that they are growing, you could say, and taking more territories. And what is still yet to be seen is, of course, if that growth will also be compensated in the financing. But from a broadcast perspective, I think we see a flexibility in working both with streaming platforms, but also with broadcasters from other countries to make that financing pattern come through. So I think there is a big appetite and there is a humongous growth in that area now, especially also with the huge competition with new streaming platforms coming in by the day.
Right. Who likes? Danielle, please. Yeah, how is it? And maybe you can tell us a little bit more also for budgets for immersive content.
Yes, yeah. So for us, we found that the growth is really connected to the adoption of the technology. So it's quite different, the model of revenue and financing than cinema, because what we've seen is that there's not the same pattern of release and then kind of a drop off and then things like that. Whereas consumers are directly purchasing the content from in an application model. So on an Oculus platform or on Steam, they can download the application, and their patterns of consumption are really based on the sales strategy that we do, which we found again to be while our background is in cinema, we're seeing that this is very different than that model. And so we've also found ways to distribute and to monetize our content through the actual content formats that we have. So at the base, our premium content is 6 degrees of freedom, meaning it's a film that you can actually walk through and explore fully. And this is the type of thing that people want to, if they're early adopters of the technology, or more and more it's becoming mainstream. But we also have the 360 version of the film, which is a flat, but it's where you can still see all sides of it. And so we found interest from telecommunication companies that want to promote 5G, because this is an example of content that can stream and show that it's high quality. So with Orange or Dutch Telecom. And then there is still location-based entertainment, which well things have adapted, and it's not possible everywhere. In certain places, Japan, Taiwan, China, Korea, there's still quite a lot of a mix between a movie theater and a video arcade game. But in a way that people can socially distance. So instead of having 20, 50, 200 people in one shared space, you can have a more individual experience, the presenting content in a very curated way.
Right.
And we see that continuing to open up in the future as things evolve.
Right. And I mean, very good insights into this immersive world. Now, if I move also to larger budget productions for release, maybe more on streaming platforms rather than necessarily theatrically, sorry. It seems to be a very tough market for film in the middle range, actually. So do you think there is a trend actually to larger budget and smaller budget? Like, how is this? How do you observe this? Maybe for Christophe, Karin, or Jaume? Who wants to take it on?
In our case, let's talk about the economics, because we cannot simply say, let's raise our subscription fee from 8 euros per month to 12 euros per month, because there's a lot of VOD platforms competing for our space right now.
Yes.
I mean, the global ones, even the local ones, and we all know how bad are the economic situation globally and Europe and of course in Spain. And then you can not afford to pay for 3-4 subscription platforms per month. Therefore, you cannot say as filming, okay, let's put 2 euros per month more for the subscribers. For production, even for acquiring more titles, for investing more marketing, and let's not forget that 30% of those 8 euros are taxes. So 8 euros less 30% of taxes, you have not a lot of money to spend on content, and we need cinemas again. So we need people paying 8 euros for watching a movie at the local cinema, because at least in Spain and Portugal, TVOD, so transactional video on demand, is almost nothing in terms of business. So people are not paying 40 euros for watching a transactional movie, because basically consumers have a lot of content on subscription, under the subscription model. They don't want to pay 40 euros more extra for watching, I don't know, Mulan or the latest Xavier Dolan movie.
Right.
This is a huge problem in terms of for production, because we cannot invest 1 million, 2 million, 3 million for production or helping to produce that content.
Right. So do you think we need, maybe Christophe, Karin, and others here, do you think we have to innovate in terms of financial models, and how should we do that? Who wants to take that? Christophe, please.
Let me add here, I think at the moment people are somehow also confused, because there are so many offerings in place. You have subscription, you have pivot, you have other formats, hopefully soon cinemas again. And we should take into consideration the important role of sales strategies and of advertising. How can you get through this jungle of content? So for each production, you have to make people aware of this production. And each format and each platform, each location has its separate role in this wide field. And I think here we need models which are linked, financing models, which are linked to the advertisement and sales strategy of each product, and also of each platform. So cinemas need to advertise themselves, and cinemas need strong support for their comeback promotions and campaigns. This is very important. But also platforms need budgets and need to advertise themselves. but each single content needs also budget and a sales strategy that make themselves aware of. So that's a very, very important thing. So we need to always look at both sides.
Yes, that was what Jaume was also saying before, with address the abundance of content, and the importance of marketing and sales is also coming up. We will go back also to this. I want to give the opportunity also maybe to Karine to say a couple of words in terms of financing trends, and also how you see this. Do you think, Karine, that local film funds continue to play a great role in supporting European creative talent, and what sort of financing is required for European production these days?
Yes. First of all, I agree what Rike said about TV scripted financing. It's been an explosion of demand, which is very positive on that side. But we have, though, seen more problematic financial negotiations regarding theatrical films. And then more so for those films in the middle, which are not local, which are not really global, but they end up somewhere in between. We in Italy, we have had a big support from our public funding system with an increased tax credit of 40% during the last year, the COVID situation. And now it's a new decree that is about to be confirmed that confirmed this 40% tax credit. That helps us boost production a lot. And what we see, I read it in an article just the other day, that we have a record of films or productions being shot in Italy right now, which is a very positive sign.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rike, Jaume, just as a last note maybe on this financing thing. So what sort of financing do you see is more required for European production and distribution, maybe also partly for you, Jaume?
Well,
I don't have the answer, sorry.
You don't have the answer. Okay, so Rike wanted to say something. This is wonderful. Hold on, I'll keep you for later on anyway. Rike, go on.
Well, to be honest, I don't have the answer either. But what I do know is crucial for financing is always, especially if you want to keep the rights as a producer, is the gap financing. It's the last money. Once you put everything, into a financing plan with the local commissioner, with the regional funds, with the media support, with the tax rebate, and then that's when you start looking into international distribution, MG, gap, how do you find that? And also bridge finance, very importantly. So I'm extremely curious to know more about this equity platform, what that really means, because I think there are some amazing possibilities there. If there is kind of like a forum where producers can go to actually speed up the process of the financing so that they don't have to sell out the last rights. That I think is a great opportunity, and I look forward to hearing more about that. I mean, we also, apart from producing, we also distribute. We're an international sales agent, and just receiving this guarantee from European Investment Fund will make it possible for us to step up in terms of risk, of putting an MG on the table. And of course, we will do what we can, but that's for Nordic projects. So I'm looking very much forward to see what EU can do there, because I think there are some opportunities.
Wonderful. Anyone wants to add something about how Europe should position itself here in terms of support in financing? Danielle?
I would just like to say, even though it's a slightly different parallel industry, I agree exactly with what Rike is saying. About the different financing coming from different parts, and how important it is the regional film and new media support that we can get. So in France, we're quite lucky because we do have different regions that offer support, and tapping into those resources has been crucial.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone want to add anything on this part? I would love to move now to Christophe, actually, and dig it a little bit more into the cinema and theaters part. Because we were saying just a moment ago that there were quite a few great films that should have been seen, decent box office returns, right? But it was not possible, so they have gone straight to pay-per-view platforms. So what do you see, Christophe, for an outlook for the cinemas over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years? Because yes, we know people want to go out now, and cinema will compete with other sorts of activities right now, right after the crisis. But I would like to give it a little bit more middle-term perspective here.
Yes. First of all, I would like to say that the future is not only online. The future is also theatrical, because watching movies is certainly also a social event and a quality event. And I'm 100% convinced that people will come back. I'm 100% sure that the COVID will not kill theaters. Cinemas have a positive future. This is, for me, very, very clear. And it is a part of our culture. It's a part of our spare time. It's a part of our entertainment. The bow goes from culture to entertainment, and it's an important part in every society. And this is, first of all, very, very important. Cinemas need support in all varieties, from the art house to the multiplex. There is no black and white, and theaters are locations for a broad portfolio of content. And I think in the next couple of years, we will see certainly changes. We will see changes in the windows. We will have this discussion. It already started, but it started out of a different motivation, driven by the pandemic. Because if you don't know if theaters have capacity, or if they are even open, or they are open and then closed again, and then open again, and then 50%, and then 30%, or 70% of occupancy. So you need an escape valve to somewhere to secure your production once you release it theatrically. And that's very important. But we are now in an interim stage, and after things will stabilize, new models will be in place. We heard a lot of the Universal deal and the Warner deal with big chains in the US, but also in other territories worldwide. So I think the future, as I said before, is very positive, but we will see changes. We will also see changes in content. We will have different alliances also in the future. And what Danielle mentioned before, location-based VR experiences can be combined in the theaters. We already tried this. If you have interesting content which is linked to a movie, you can provide space in the complexes you have, and you can invite people after watching a movie maybe to see side stories, to see a making of with the VR equipment, and then you can dive in the productions, and again the social event after taking off your VR goggles, you can discuss, and then you go to the linked gastronomy, have a drink and discuss, and hear the local and social component, and this important role of a meeting place will be more and more underlined. So for me, there are many new perspectives, but certainly we need support. We need support for the reopening. We need local programs for that. To point out that cinemas are here.
Yes.
Theatrical experience is going in the back of the people's minds. We have to bring it back once we are allowed, and then we have to shout out loud that theaters are a very good place. I always say the best place to watch a movie in terms of quality, the big screen, the sound, the dimension, and the social event. That's the phenomenon of a theater.
And apart from drive-in cinemas and outdoor cinemas, I mean, we, for the Berlinale, for example, is planning to try to be a little bit more outdoor in June, in the summer. What do you think will make customers want to return to the cinema beyond the quality of the film, obviously? How will you do a safe environment when it is not outside necessarily?
I think we are now, hopefully, in the last quarter of the marathon. And I think certainly a drive-in cinema at the moment is a very secure place. Maybe it's not so inviting when it's snowing and when it's cold outside and so on. But it's also not inviting when it's has 40 degrees outside and everyone is switching on the air conditioning. So this is maybe also not a good thing. But it is charming and it has its very special, unique character. And in some parts of the seasons, in spring, in early summer, in autumn, it's very nice. It's a safe place. But theaters are not the most dangerous places. There are many studies of the aerosol developments. There are many studies what distance measures can help for. Good ventilation. There are different technical requirements from country to country. You have a volume of air circulation, which is reducing the risk. All these things. But at the end, I think we need vaccination. We need a social health level which allows us to come back. And
to life.
All the interim steps at the moment are hopefully only temporary and will slowly disappear. We have now the discussions with the green vaccination ID or whatever. This is all important. We need digital solutions, not to come with a piece of paper of the last antigen test and 48 hours or 72 hours or 24 hours old. This is all not helping us. We need a digital thing with a QR code. You got the vaccination, you can come in, and then social events like concerts, movie shows, whatever, can be much easier brought back into functionality. But at the end, we need a broad level of vaccination, and then we don't discuss these topics anymore.
Right. I think there is quite a potential also here for innovation. Indeed, I was reading, I think yesterday in France, there is a new app coming also for gigs, for concerts, to make it more accessible, faster, more digital, and etc. So I hope this is going to come too. Do you think the windowing question, just very briefly, do you think the windowing question, which was forced to go faster to streaming, and etc., do you think this is going to stay, or do you think this is exceptional? This is a pandemic-specific stuff.
Certainly, it will stay, and certainly there will be different models. Currently, cinemas are closed. What should we discuss about? I mentioned this emergency valve to platforms. I think there will be new models in place. There is a lot of discussion ongoing, but I think this is an ongoing process.
Right.
And it is combined with the comeback of theaters. The window discussion is an important discussion. The theatrical exclusivity at the beginning is important. Also to provide the platform for the movie to be more and more known and to create the awareness. This is very, very important. And if you look at the business model, people are willing to pay a certain amount to watch a movie. And from this certain amount, a high proportion goes to the distributor, goes to the production. And this share or this part of the cake is a very high part. And to see it pragmatically, why should we destroy this part? And why should we not maintain this income? But certainly flexibility is important. The customer journey, the way how people want to watch a movie should not be too much interfered by the business models, because otherwise people escape to piracy, which we all don't want. And so we need good models.
Yes. Yes, I think Rome wanted to say something about this, and this is great because you make the perfect bridge, Christophe. Thank you very much. To my next question, in terms also of channels, audiences, and business model. Because last year, Rome, you were predicting at the Berlinale also that we would see more umbrella models emerging, response with bundled offerings through telecom providers and broadcasters, streaming becoming more accessible in combination with personal devices, inclusive TV, streaming hardware. So more channels, more impact, but also new ways for business models, maybe. You wanted to add something anyway now, right?
Yes, yeah, but let me add something regarding the
windowing.
The windowing and in our experience. No, first of all, I think that the windowing discussion won't take place in Europe, but in Hollywood. So the major studios will decide which kind of will be the standard window from the 4 months. I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, which will be the scenario for the blockbuster titles. In our case, filming has also acted as a theater distributor. So we have released in theaters 9 movies during the last 5 months. Because in Spain, cinemas are still open. So 40% of the cinemas are still open. And we have released 9 films there with windows from 1 month to 3 months. And the experience has been quite successful. Movies like Under the Skin or Giuseppe, which is an animated film, a French Catalan or Spanish co-production, has been quite successful on our side. And those are films distributed by Filming, by a big VOD platform that strongly believe in cinemas. So we need to support the cinema's business, releasing exclusively titles on our local cinemas. And coming back to your question, to the umbrella, yeah, let's take a look to Amazon, to Apple channel, Amazon channel. Not only the broadcasters, not only Vodafone, Movistar, and NOS, for instance, no, that they offer range subscriptions in a package, no, but for the Amazon and Apple, I think there's an opportunity, but also this danger, because you are sharing all the data with them, with your competitors somehow. And I don't know if it is a good thing to do, because basically they will know the content that your subscribers are watching, and therefore maybe they would decide what type of content they can buy or acquire before you can do it. Yeah.
Actually, what do we know about the audiences? Do we know? You were saying we have to address because of this abundance of content. Christophe was saying also we need more sales and marketing, but we need to know their expectations. So what do we actually know about the audiences, what they watch, how it increases, what is more in demand? I mean, I was reading some statistics here in Germany, like yesterday, plus 25% on SVOD in Germany the last year, fantastic. And what do we know about what they watch and what they want?
In our case in filming, we have just hired 3 persons for data analysis. So data is all about data. In order to not all about data, let's say it's important to know your audience, but to see that there's no one type of subscribers. It's not. This is only the cinephile, European cinephile, want to watch this kind of movies. This is not real anymore. So if we want to reach a new audience, first of all, we need to know our audience. Then maybe we can try to go to conquer, to market for other types of audience. In our case, the editorial team is 19 people nowadays. So 5 of them are focused on data and data analysis.
And is this explaining the success of your growth also? Like, what do you think is the main success factor beside the pandemics and etc.? I mean, you are anyway increasing your audiences, right?
It's basically content marketing technology, CMT. So it's like content, exclusive content, long tail, library titles, marketing. And by marketing, because somehow there's people saying, okay, we will invest in a marketing campaign. Spending 500 euros on Google Ads is not a marketing campaign.
So what is a good marketing campaign?
So, for instance, spending thousands and thousands of euros promoting one title or a platform, but not 500 euros on Google Ads. This is not a marketing campaign. This is something, okay, you can do it, but it's not a marketing campaign. Investing on outdoor marketing is important, even for a VOD platform. You need to be seen in the streets, not only on the apps. It's a bet. If you want to compete with these global platforms, you need to act like them, even if you don't have that kind of budget. But otherwise, you will be crushed in 1 year or less.
Absolutely, because I mean, there is a huge competition, obviously, but at the same time, we see that consumers are actually subscribing to 1, 2, 3 services now. So they want it all, right? But there is still pirate services also. And the platforms have to show that they can deliver these expectations. So I would like to know maybe a little bit more about what you were saying before, Christoph. You were talking about sales and advertising. How do you see this from your perspectives in the near future to address the audiences?
Well, I think it's important, as I mentioned earlier, you have to advertise the content also, not only the platform. We need both. And that's very, very important. You have to be visible with your platform. And let's call the theaters also a platform. And you have to be visible with the content. But each without the other part cannot work. And here we need alliances which have always been in place and which are now somehow interrupted because theaters are not here or only partly working. Like you mentioned, in Spain, only 40%, or we have some territories where cinemas are open, like in Serbia, in North Macedonia, even in Croatia, but with strong limitations. And here you can currently clearly see that the business model somehow got stuck. Everyone is trying to save costs, so sales strategies are not fully working, and you see the vicious circle going down. No content, no people, no volume, no income, no advertising. So currently we are in a very bad situation. We see if there is, for instance, and we talked about local content before, if there is a local Serbian movie release with a local budget supported by the Serbian Film Center and by other funds, people are interested and people are coming. And then people are watching other trailers and see, oh, Tom and Jerry is coming. There was a great Tom and Jerry release last weekend from Warner. And we were so happy, and we created quickly a family day, and families came, and people were disciplined, wear the masks and came, and everyone was happy, and we provided this part of normal life. And here you see this positive stimulation. Mm-hmm. And you saw local advertising from the theater and local advertising from the distributor. And so the wheel slowly starts turning again. So both sides have to have their own sales strategies and their marketing budgets.
I think that's a very good point for me to wrap it up and to see, we will see different kinds of collaborations. We will see different kind of also maybe business model being elaborated in the near future to adapt to this situation. We will need also to connect very well between the content and the audiences. And it won't be only with data. We have to do a good job in terms of sales and marketing. Now, I would like to make a final round of everybody because the questions are coming in on Slido like crazy. So I'd better bring them all to you. I saw a couple of questions already, which are very interesting, but I would like to give you the opportunity to make a last round to wrap it all up for now, on how do you think that the future will look like, to conclude our perspectives on this panel right now. So if we imagine that we are in 7 years from now, what do you think will have changed most? And you can tell me something about new structure, new way of working, new ways of production, different funding, whatever. You can project the way you see the industry evolving. And I would like to start maybe with Karine again, going back to Karine as you started, and ask you your personal perspective on what will change most in the industry in the next 5 to 7 years, say. Yeah.
Well, I want to take up what Christophe said, because I agree. I think cinema has a positive future. That's maybe a little bit going back with tradition, but I'm a romantic. I love cinema, and I think that's part of our cultural experience, to be able to go and experience culture together. And of course, it won't be exactly as today. I think we will see cinema being created as spaces we can experience both feature films, but also other events like football events, sports, opera, whatever you can experience together. I think we still will have some protocols due to COVID, that we have to adapt those spaces to that. But I really think that people need to be together and experience culture together.
Thank you. Rike, what is your take on this? How do you see the biggest change coming up in the next 5 to 7 years? Say, what will stay, what will evolve further?
Well, I can only agree that I think cinema is here to stay, no doubt about it. It's a social event. We all want that more than ever. And then I think there will be a consolidation of streamers. I think there's a bloodbath right now with a lot of subscriptions, but I think that people will be more targeted in the future, and 3 to 4, and I think even local players will survive because they have relevant content for that specific territory. And then I think we will have new and very efficient production models, including virtual reality, that will probably explode and make it easier to produce. And then I think what will be interesting, if there would be, in terms of the financing, some kind of decentralization where actually the audience have much more power, decision power over the content, and they can choose what they want to see and perhaps even participate in the financing. I think that might be what will be the biggest difference in the future, 7 years from now.
Very interesting. Thank you, Rike. We will check it out in 7 years. Danielle, what do you think? Will it explode with the VR stuff, immersive content?
I mean, yes, I think that, well, for years we've been saying that VR is going to explode, and I think that this has definitely accelerated things. But it's interesting because no matter what, there's still this need for co-presence. So in VR, what we see is people are recreating cinemas because they would rather watch a 180-degree film together virtually with someone else rather than a 360 or and so I think what does this say? Well, this tells us that people are missing that type of interaction and that type of consumption that is a community. So we have VR that has endless, almost limitless possibilities for storytelling and immersive narrative content. And one of the major issues is that people do feel isolated. So I think in the next 7 years, what we'll see is this collaboration between cinema and VR, where we can work together and bring what cinema has to offer and expand around the cinema experience with other types of immersive storytelling. So I see more gender diversity, hopefully more diverse audiences as well. And that comes in large part from the massive chasm that has opened up because of the current situation and this period of reckoning. And I think it's up to us as decision makers now, and those people with power and privilege, to educate ourselves, and really from the personal level to systemic level, what Lucia was talking about earlier, about bridging communities and opening up our eyes for people who are disadvantaged, and transgender and systemic systems of oppression. I think that there's a lot of room to grow, and I am optimistic that at least now we're talking about it. So I think that cinema, VR, it all has a role in making things better.
Yes, thank you for adding this, Danielle. Very important indeed. I mean, there are very important subjects we could not treat today. I'm also thinking of sustainability. I hope that we will have questions on this. We're going to go on this. But before that, the last round again. Christophe, maybe you would like to take the next one. What is your take? The biggest change coming up in 7 years? How will it look like?
Yeah, let's say cinemas currently are in hibernation, but spring is coming. And once we are open again, I see in the future more quality in terms of the theaters itself. We will have a broad range from art house to multiplex to premium large formats, and in each part we will fit in the right content. I think we will see new alliances, we will see new content. It was already mentioned. We do have opera in our theaters, we do have ballet, we do have live action, we do have sports. This will be intensified in the future. And at the end also, the customer journey will be increased, and the theater owners will have an important role in providing information to their audiences. Information is important, and here we can do some kind of, not a pre-selection, but giving some directions of what content is coming and what content is available. And so to make it easier for the people to decide and to come and enjoy the movie experience in theaters.
Absolutely, and maybe even to get more new customers and make new cinephiles happen. Raume, what's your take from your perspective as a streamer, among other things? You're muted? Yes.
No. Christophe just said that spring is coming. I will say that after spring, it will be the summer, because Atlantida will take place during summer. It's a fine example of collaboration between local cinemas, VOD platform, trying to create kind of new cinephiles with new audience that maybe they are not watching European movies during the rest of the year. And thanks to Atlantida, the online festival and the festival in Mallorca, they will find out a lot of new talent. So it's a fine example of collaboration on building bridges. And in 7 years, I wish to help to finance new movies and new series from new talent, Spanish European talent, maybe hopefully to be new territories in Europe, so not only Spain and Portugal, and we're together with you in Berlin, not in Zoom. So those are my wishes.
Absolutely, I'm with you for that one. Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much to all of you for now, but we stay tuned because now we have the question of the audience. I know that Lucia is also joining us now, because actually the first question, and people can vote for the question. So the question which has the highest vote is for Lucia. So Lucia, to address the rapid digitization, how is the European Commission looking to support European platforms and startups that offer tech solution to industry key players to increase transparency, efficiency, and enable collaboration?
Well, that's a very relevant question. So for the first time in the legal basis, we have a very clear mandate to support promotion and marketing tools, including digital analytics, to really try to reach out to more audiences and make European content more available. So we plan to launch a dedicated call on tools that could benefit the whole audiovisual ecosystem. So that's one opportunity. But also because we know that these tools are primarily being implemented by very dynamic startups that are, I would say, at the crossroads between content and technology, and are very savvy on that interaction. So there will be opportunities there. But also, as part of the Media Action Plan, we would like to foster what we call the media market gateway. We think that we could build on the experience that we already have of building audiovisual professionals to the most important markets, such as Berlinale. And actually, it would make sense as well to bring startups working and offering solutions to the audiovisual sector at large. And this is an action, as I said, included in this Media Action Plan. It will be difficult to implement it now because we are all working in Zoom virtually, but it is definitely something that we would like as soon as there is life beyond Zoom and we can all get and meet together, so that we make a very strong effort to include the startups as part of the broader audiovisual community and giving them more opportunities to mingle, to talk to producers, to distributors, to cinemas, to the whole ecosystem.
Right. Thank you, Lucia. The next question, and I want to make a little focus on it because we didn't talk about it. So I would like to have a short statement from every perspective on the panel. Please, short. It's a very broad question, so be precise in your answer, please. On our transition to a climate neutral industry, what needs to be done next? So I don't want everything, but what do you think the first thing from your perspective needs to be done next? And I start with, on the monitor, it's Christophe next to me. So what do you think is to be done next, Christophe?
Energy saving measures in theaters, change of heating systems, air conditioning systems, ventilation, energy saving systems from the theatrical point of view.
Thank you very much. Rike, you're the next one on my screen.
Yes, well, I think when thinking film production as such, it's really transportation, to the set. And then, of course, distribution of films. It's not helping with, going to too many festivals. So there's a little bit to have learned there also from the online universe from Corona.
Good. Danielle?
With virtual reality, I think that a lot more research needs to be done because the files can be quite large, and this is an issue. So there needs to be serious consideration, and it needs to be a priority. And learning how, to optimize files and file sharing so that the digital pollution is minimized.
Thank you. Jaume?
In our case, on the festival side, this year will be the first green festival in Spain for the Atlantida. And regarding, as Daniel said, just the digital pollution, we need to invest more money and efforts to minimize the impact of that.
Thank you. And Karine, last but not least.
When it comes to film production, TV film production, I think we need a common framework within the EU about levels and measurements to take. And I'm not really sure, but I think Creative Europe has been working on that. Because before we are all reaching goals that are not the same. So we should somehow put it together to put up goals and objectives.
Lucia, would you like to add something to this from Creative Europe?
That I fully agree with Karine. We are what we measure, and we need to start by having standard tools to measure the CO2 emissions. And common tools would be our priority.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's very good to have this laser sharp next measure on the perspective. So let's go on. Next question. It's again for all the panelists. So panelists, how do we increase the quality, competitiveness, visibility, and success of European film in terms of market power monopolization? And how can the media program best contribute to this? I will go back to Lucia after that. But first, to the panelists, quality, competitiveness, visibility, and success of European film in time of monopolization. And this time I go the other way around. Karine, you start.
Well, this is a big question, but I think a lot about this to create quality content is aimed to us, independent producers. That's why we fight so hard to keep independent, to keep IP rights. And I'm very happy that Creative Europe has an increased budget for the next 7 years. And I'm very curious to see how the budget will be allocated, because I think us as producers, we want more money for production and development. And I think development, high quality development is key to reach high quality content.
Thank you very much. Rome, what's your take on that one? Competitiveness?
First, we need to take some risks. Otherwise, we'll be dead. So by taking risk, I mean, let's start thinking a different way regarding, because it's important, regarding the collaboration between the festival, so this hybrid form of the festival. During the last month, some sales agents, and not only the sales agents, have decided to limit the number of views per film on the online platform for the festival. And this is a huge mistake. Basically, because it means that there's only 500 people in Spain that are really eager to watch for that film. No, you need to address to the 47 millions of people that probably they could watch the film. So instead of limiting the audience, trying to reach a new audience, and this is crucial.
Very good. We're going to go back to that one after that. Danielle, very quickly also.
I think this is great stories come from having diverse voices in positions of decision making, and so this is a trend that is growing. And I think that we just need to be wary of tokenizing people. But I think if we can really focus on getting different voices and seeing different storytelling from a wide variety of perspectives. That
innovative, creative, and diverse. Absolutely. Thank you. Rike.
Yes, I would agree also with Jaume there that taking risks and just trying new things is absolutely essential for storytelling as well. And that includes really embracing our cultural diversity, because that's where we're very strong, and collaboration. So that's the key word, I think, collaboration and talent, and then embracing cultural diversity.
Okay. And Christophe, before I go back to Lucien?
Increase the P&A budgets for each title and incentivize theaters to show content, which means enlarge the Europa Cinema network, make it accessible for more theaters. It would be a big impact.
Thank you. Lucia, would you like also to say in terms of the role of the media program on this?
Yes, of course, because we heard the producing, more money to production, the cinemas, more money to cinemas, exactly. And our job is more money for the ecosystem. Don't think in silos. There is a win-win through this collaboration for the benefit of everyone. So for us is, again, collaboration, innovation, and perhaps thinking now, don't think that your native market is your national, regional, local market. Is the European market, and thinking together, I would say, ecosystem, thinking European. That's
very good. And also beyond your own field of work, thinking of the ecosystem in collaboration. But I think we had this also in the last part of the panel. So that is really great. I want to take another question. Yes, we still have the time. Please, let's go. Oh, yes. So the next one would be with the emphasis. Oh, it's only for Rike. With the emphasis on collaboration in the new Creative Europe program, how do you, Rike, see future co-productions in a practical view?
Wow, that's a big question too. I mean, it really depends on the case. I'm just hoping that, the stories, you could say the soul of the story will make it natural, go towards a co-production. I mean, from a Nordic perspective, we often co-produce with Germany because that's nearer us. And also you could say the money from Germany is quite large from a financing perspective. So I'm just, actually going back to the question, I'm not quite sure what the question is, whether we would like to do more co-productions.
No, it is like, how do you, Rike, see future co-productions in a practical view, meaning like how is it going to happen? So yes, funding, money, where the money is, obviously.
Absolutely. And then working remotely, making it actually possible to do co-productions.
That's great. So it will allow also different arts of collaboration. Next question. I would like to make the maximum of questions to make our audience happy, with the abundance of expertise that we have here. So it is to the panel again. So let's make a firework of last answers here. Panel, what do you see the role of the independent filmmaker themselves in reaching audiences? How active should they be in the distribution process? Will that change as distribution changes? So maybe we concentrate on the role of the independent filmmaker to reach audiences. Where do you see this? And I'll start with Christophe, please.
Take your cast and visit theaters, visit your audience, and do fan events, do social events, and use the platform we provide for you.
Wonderful, thank you. Karine.
Well, I think independent filmmakers, there's already there's need for flexibility to be able to self-distribute, maybe with support with the financing, but to reach directly the theaters where it's needed. I mean, that to open up different ways of working directly with the cinemas.
Good, thank you. Jaume?
Once again, I don't have the answer, because for some independent cinemas, I would say use your social media accounts, but it won't work for all the directors. I cannot imagine Paolo Sorrentino posting on Instagram promoting his latest film. So, but for the maybe the young directors, it could help. Once again, for reach that new audience that maybe they are reluctant to pay for an European content. I'm a European scene, Spanish content, French co-production, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Danielle?
Well, I can mostly speak about independent VR storytellers or XR.
Yes.
And I would say being hands-on, and something that Antoine Carol always says is just watch as much content as possible. So consume and watch other people's things and be involved in the creation of the community.
Thank you, Danielle. Rike? You're muted.
Here we go. No, I would agree with Danielle. I mean, watch as much as possible. And as a filmmaker, I mean, be ready to work with very, very small budgets, might even web series, just to grow. And then when the right opportunity comes, I mean, just go for it.
Wonderful, thank you. I think I'm going to leave the questions there. I'm sorry, there were more questions. We cannot answer them all, but I think it was really interesting also to finish with the connection to the audiences. I mean, there were more than 380 people watching us right now. So you can see how many, and I didn't check all the possible questions, only the best voted questions. It was a democratic system here. I would like maybe to say, well, thank you, fantastic panelists. That was really great to have all these perspectives to treat the subject we had today on this panel. So thank you very much. And I hope this gave you also a good perspective on how the European industry is looking at the future. To all the audiences, I would like to give the opportunity also to Lucia or Ivan Brinkat from the Creative Europe program, maybe media program, maybe to say a couple of very last words and leave that to them. Would you like to say last words, one of you?
Yes, thank you, AC. It's at all order to sum up this such a rich discussion. We've touched upon such a wide-ranging number of issues, so I will try to be as succinct as possible. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers, because this was really a fascinating discussion, and I think we take a lot of points which we will be able to work on both in the near future, but I think also in the foreseeable future. This year has been a very challenging one for all of us. I think that, as we said at the beginning, we were in the start in the last physical event in Berlin. A year has passed, a lot has happened, a lot has changed, and at the same time, a lot has stayed the same. I'll try to sum up with a few key messages, which I noted down. I think one of them is hope and optimism. I think a lot of the panelists gave this message. Spring is coming, summer is around the corner. We're 3/4 into the marathon. So I think that's the first message. There is hope. There's also growth. We've seen it, maybe not in cinema audiences, because this has been a challenging time, but there's been growth and incredible growth when it comes to VOD platforms, and also success stories. We heard of the first film in independent production, and I think that is a feather in the cap for a small local, in a way, VOD platform. We've discussed windowing, but we've also heard the importance of alliances, and I think I was extremely pleased to hear like the possible collaboration between cinemas, maybe one of the oldest links in the industry, to VR, XR. I think there's a lot of things to do. When it comes to financing, we've heard about the importance of the gap financing, and there's something where we need to work. But I think another thing which is particularly of interest will be the decentralization, which Rike mentioned. And I think that is probably one thing we really need to be attentive to, also because it might give both the producers what would be necessary in terms of keeping the IP, also when it travels. So it's a message of hope. I think we've all passed through a difficult 1 year. For some, it was different. So there were the challenges of production, the challenges of distribution, the challenges of cinema. But I think we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the last thing I want to say is that after every pandemic, within history, we've always seen the greatest works of art, and it's when creativity explodes. So I think this EFF gives us the hope that we're on the right track.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you, Christophe, Rike, Daniel, Jaume, Karin, and also Lucia to be with us in this Q&A. And for all of you who are watching us or were watching us, okay, creative explosion, make it happen. It's in your hands. We need to take this action anyway. Whatever happens, how bad the film is in which we are still in for now, we have to get out of it. We have to switch off it at some point and move to the next film. So make it happen, create it, and let's hope for a better future for the audiovisual industry. Thank you very much, and have a good Berlinale this week. See you in another format, maybe somewhere, and see you soon in real life. Bye.